It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a YouTube video. Now this is a bigger problem than whether 2 plus 2 equals 4 or whether the earth is flat or round, but obviously all the Minecrafters know it's a cuboid. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, who created God? Many scholars, brilliant minds, philosophers and so on have for centuries debated with others why God must exist. One popular explanation is the Kalam cosmological argument states that if the first two boxes are checked, then the conclusion must be true. Firstly, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Secondly, the universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Let's look on the first requirement. Let's think logically here. Do things just pop into existence? Imagine wandering through a desert at night and noticing a glowing orb. Would you just walk by and say, it probably just popped out of nowhere?
No.
Obviously, you would sell it for millions and give me a split of it, nudge nudge. But you definitely wouldn't say it came from nowhere. And if things can come into existence out of nothing, then why don't we see this happening often? Like, when was the last time you saw a PS5 pop up at your doorstep? Don't worry. There's no way it's just going to pop out of nowhere, so now you don't even have to waste your time.
How you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
We know the first example must be true based on our human experiences and science. Now to the second one. Has the universe just always existed? I mean, back in my day, the universe was there, and back in your parents' day and your parents' parents and those cheek snatchers, and go on and on. So the universe must have always existed, right? Let's talk about the second law of thermodynamics. Wait, we're talking about science? Yeah. Wait, don't go. This law states... I have even... Basically, the law shows that the universe is slowly running out of energy. The likelihood for an eternal universe not running out of energy by now is the same likelihood of you winning a lottery without entering, aka it ain't happening. The second law also points to a universe with a definite beginning. And if you're still not convinced, then let's talk about the dopey one, the mad lad, Albert Einstein, and his general theory of relativity. You know that one equation that you saw on one of those infinite posters your teachers have on the walls, but you didn't know what it meant? Just me? Well, using this equation, which opened up discussions on the previous history of the universe, led to Alexander Friedman and Georges Lemaitre predicting that the universe is expanding, followed by Edwin Hubble measuring the redshift in the light from faraway galaxies. These discoveries form a conclusion, which is that the universe was expanding from a singular point in time. Additionally, Arvin Bohr, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin prove that any universe which has, on average, been expanding throughout its history can't be eternal in the past, but have an absolute beginning, which even applies to the multiverse for all of you Marvel fanboys. And girls, I said and girls. This means that since the two requirements are met, then the conclusion must be true. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Well, you might ask, if the universe has a cause, then why does the cause have to be God? Why can't it be a hot dog, a girl, or Bob from retail? Hey Bob. Logically, what created the universe must be beyond the universe, just like a game developer is beyond the dictionaries of code that makes up a single game. Since the universe is run by space, time, material, power, and its cause, then the creator must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, and uncaused. Why is there something instead of nothing? Why are people here? Animals, rocks, water. Why? Many Christians will say that the reason is God, but is that illogical? Leibniz argued that since contingent things are things that could conceivably not exist under different circumstances, since contingent things can't always exist, they must have a cause. This cause can be another contingent thing, but rather something that exists by necessity. This necessary being is God. Okay, so that was a mouthful that a lot of you probably didn't understand, but let me explain. So Leibniz uses two main words such as necessary and one you haven't heard very often, contingent, meaning subject to change. So what's the difference whether something exists contingently versus something that exists necessarily? Let's start with the latter. Things that exist necessarily exist by the necessity of their nature, aka it would be impossible for them not to exist. An example of this would be numbers. Who created numbers? Well, you could argue that the Egyptians or Sumerians, but numbers existed before humans even discovered it, as the world was already run by numbers. It's just that we couldn't understand it by just looking at it, but by making these little images that represent what we call numbers. Well, now this makes sense, I think. On the other hand, as the definition hints to things that exist contingently or to exist by something else. An example of this is you, who was brought into this earth by the hard work of your mother and pops, doing the birds and the bees. Now all you have to do is to figure out if the bee is a female or if the bird is the female. Anyways, these things don't have to exist. Wait, so I don't have to exist? Don't worry, save that for another vid. There is no reason to believe that the universe had to exist, but what about God? The universe could have not necessitated its existence by its nature, but does God apply the same way? God's existence would be necessary by his nature. An eternal being must have always existed, because to be eternal, you would have to have existed forever, no beginning and no end. This explains why there must be something or someone like God, but I know you're a hard cookie to crack, so let's go to Exhibit B. What caused an uncaused thing? This might seem like a ridiculous question, and that's because it is. He's here. Be ready, man. He's just standing there, menacingly. Now stay with me here. Let's say you have two dominoes, one by the other. If you use your finger to knock down one of the dominoes, then the other will fall. Pretty basic stuff. Let's say you had 3 dominoes or 4. Then you would just need to knock down one of the end ones to knock them over. Think of you as a domino, and then your parents were 2 other dominoes. And then what about the world being a domino, and then the galaxies and the universe? But if you remember from the beginning, a domino can't knock down another domino by itself. It needs the finger to knock down the first domino. Before you all say, what about the wind? Whether the wind or your finger, something or someone had to move the first domino. Now, since we know that objects can't move on their own, that rules that out from being something. For us to exist, a lot of dominoes would have to fall. But even if it was billions of dominoes, unless there was someone who wasn't bound by the laws that the dominoes portray, then we wouldn't exist. Our domino would have never gotten hit. Therefore, there must have been an unmoved mover, an uncaused causer, or a first cause, who we refer to as God. Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding. Isaiah chapter 40 verse 28. It is insisted that the God of the Bible is eternal, meaning no beginning and no end. So where did the God of the Bible come from? You believe that the universe created you, but who created the universe? And how can a material world create consciousness? The universe is not eternal, so it must have a cause. But a timeless, eternal being cannot have a cause. Asking where God comes from is a failure to grasp God. The God of the Bible is not affected by time, space, or matter. If he was affected by time, space, or matter, he wouldn't be God. Time, space, and matter is known as a continuum. What's that? I'm glad you asked. Continuum. A continuous thing, quantity, or substance. A continuous series of elements passing into each other. They have to come into existence at the same instant, because if there was matter but no space, where would you put it? But if there was matter in space but no time, when would you put it? You can't have time, space, or matter independently, so they must have come into existence simultaneously. And the Bible answers this question straight out the block. In Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, in the beginning there's time, God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth, there's matter. Literally, our God, a Trinity, created a trinity of trinities. Since time, space, and matter are trinities, time consists of past, present, and future. Space consists of height, width, depth, and matter consists of solid, liquid, and gas. As previously stated, the guy who created this computer did not exist in the computer, neither is he abiding by the rules of the computer. The God who created the universe isn't of the universe or affected by it. You might ask, how can a spiritual force affect a physical world? But it can't be made of matter, since matter can't move matter without energy. Now, what people mean by spiritual force can be debated, but God is known as being like energy, in the sense that you may not be able to touch him, but just like heat, energy, or electric energy, he can affect many things. Plus, matter can't really explain emotions, or even worse, rationality, since if your brain is just a random collection of chemicals transformed over billions of years and centuries, then how can you trust your own reasoning, processing, and the thoughts that you think of? Where did God come from assumes a limited God, but the God of the Bible that we worship is limited. God came from nowhere because there was nowhere for him to come from. He stretched out the north over the empty place and hanged the earth upon nothing. To recap, who created God? God is an eternal being who can't be created because he is the first cause, the unmoved mover, the uncaused causer, the one needed to cause everything. The universe couldn't have existed forever because the discoveries presented by modern science and brilliant thinkers. And God came from nowhere because there wasn't anywhere for him to come from. And that's how the cookie crumbles. The dad jokes for the win. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn how can an all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful God send people to hell, well, click on the video on the screen, subscribe, and like.